Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
Hi everyone, Sue here at 1A Auto, and today we're going to show you how to remove and replace a driver's side exhaust manifold on our 03 Tundra with a 4.7 liter. The passenger side is identical, so one isn't easier or harder than the other. Now, you need this part or any other part for your car, click on the link below and head on over to 1aauto.com. Taking the wheel off, it's a 21mm socket. I like to loosen them up in the star pattern, even though that's how you mount them, I still take them off the same way. And make sure the weight of the vehicle's on the truck tire and loosen up the lug nuts. We're not taking them all the way off, we're just loosening them. At home you can use a jack with jack stands. I have a 2-post lift I'll be raising my vehicle with. Now with the vehicle up in the air, it's safe for me to take the lug nuts off by hand. I'll just take them all off and then set them aside. Now with the lug nuts off, it's safe to pull the tire off. So we ended up replacing the exhaust completely from the tailpipe muffler assembly to the mid-resonator pipe to the passenger side secondary converter, then the driver's side secondary converter with flex pipe, right up to the driver's side manifold. Now with this out, it was easy for us to do the manifold. If you're not going to replace the exhaust on your truck, just the manifold alone, take a good examine of the pipe flanges on your truck. These, if they're too thin, if the pipe bolts are rotted, really guess twice whether you want to take that down and disturb it in the center place where it connects to the mid pipe. You do have to disconnect it at the manifold if you're doing the manifold repair. But 3 nuts going back up is a lot easier than the connection for the mid-resonator pipe. If this flange is thin, you might end up having to replace that, which is a series of rotted pipes. So just give it a good look over and make your best decision. So I've sprayed the manifold to front pipe, the nuts, to hopefully get these so they can break free. It's a 14mm socket. They're locking nuts, and there's 3 per side. Nice. Let's see if I can get them all break free. They've been soaking a while. So luckily all the manifold nuts to the front pipe came off and are good to reuse again. I'm going to remove the clips that hold the splash shield in the fender well. There's 4 on this particular back one. I'm just using a body tool to get in there and work the clip back. And one down on the bottom. Actually, we can leave that attached. I'll just tuck it out of the way. So now I can see the manifold. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Remove these body clips. See if I can fold that down. It won't stay, so I'm going to take this out of my way. As you can see behind the driver's side strut tower, you can see the exhaust manifold on the left side of the engine. There's 4 studs on the top, 4 on the bottom. When removing the driver's side manifold, or either side, it's not mandatory to take the whole pipe down, the front pipe that goes to the manifold. You usually just have to take the 3 nuts off the studs to the front pipe, but we were replacing that pipe anyways, and we were replacing the manifold, so I just took it down so it'd be easier to work with. I'm gonna go with the easiest one first, because that's the way I roll. It's a 14mm socket. Let's hope that it comes out of the head. Yeah, the stud came out with the nut, which is probably gonna happen with all of them, because I'll show you how corroded they get. So the nuts they're lock nuts. They're meant to go on once, that's it, and then they get corroded. So it takes the stud out of the head, which is in great shape. Now I've only got 3 more to go on the top and 4 on the bottom. The shield was in the way. Come on. There we go. Yep, round it off. So we're going to take the shield off so we have better access to the lower bottom 4 studs. The new manifold does come with a shield, so if these bolts, the mounting bolts for the shield break, it's not a big deal. They're 10mm, but they're pretty rotted, so they're not really much of anything. There's one, and I broke the back one already for that shield, that part. It really doesn't matter. Like I said, the new manifold's going to come with it. So you can peel this down. Get to the mounting bolts from underneath and get that shield out of your way. And one mounting. As you can see, I have to use these specialty sockets that I have. The tool guys call them twisty sockets because they got a twist to them. I have seen them at certain stores also, but when you get a bolt or a nut that is rusted, they twist onto it and they definitely break them free. Thankful that these shield bolts are only like an 1/8 of an inch long. Well, now with the shield out, it's a matter of how we're going to get the actual shield out. We might not be able to get it out, but we can at least move it around to get to the nuts and studs. I'm going to dismount the oil dipstick tube. It looks like a 12mm socket. Once I get the oil dipstick tube out of the way, I might be able to get that shield out. It's hitting in the front. Yeah, there we go. You just pull it right out of the block. It's something that I can get from the top. When I go back up there, I'll just pull it out this way. I'm going to put the bolt with it so you don't lose it. Now with that dipstick out, big improvement on what you can get around here. I think you probably had to take that oil dipstick out to get the manifold out anyway, so it's not difficult. Now I'm just going to wedge it up through the top. And I can lower the vehicle and grab it from up there and pull it up. There we go. And it's out of here. Now with the shield out, you can see the shield bolt locations. So if you need this for a reference, if you get those two, you can see the back one, it's to the front or directly below it. Yeah, I guess they're almost directly below each other. They're both inward. Here we go. Thank you. There we go, 6 left. So the third bolt we're going for, stud and nut, shall I say, it's not budging, so we're going to just heat it up with our heat tip. It's not a cutting tip, it's just a heat tip. If you have access to heat, you're going to have to probably use it. I think the nut's coming out on this one. Just the nut without the stud, maybe. No, good, the stud's coming. Because I'm going to replace all 8 studs with 8 locking nuts. I don't want to have to take a stud out. Now it's, I'm going for the 4 on the bottom. They're more difficult to see, but you still can get to them, especially with that shield out of the way. I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to have to heat it up. Can't even see what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. I'm just heating up in the general area. The last 2 are in the center, bottom, and they're located right here, above this motor mount bracket, right here. So I'm going to see if I can go from the top and see through the center now that the shield's off, and that way I can give it a visual while I manipulate the socket on there. This is a tight fit, let me tell you. And the key is that you can't bottom your ratchet out or your socket out on the motor mount. It's like 3/4 of the way out. Okay. 1 left. So the last 2 bolts, like I said, you really can't see. They're located right here above the motor mount bracket. If you're going to heat it up, you got to be careful. There should be no wires. I didn't see any harnesses down there. So a nice small direct flame tip, and you shouldn't have a problem. Yeah, this is one's gonna be real difficult. There we go, I'm on it. Let's see if I can break it free. Okay, I'm gonna get the bar. There you go. Loosen it up. Okay, now we've got to get my ratchet and socket out of there. It's starting to hit the motor mount bracket, so I'm gonna get it out while I can. Okay. There we go. Okay, now get that out of there. Okay, here we go. Came off. Yeah, the ratchet came off. It's beyond exhausting. So if you haven't disconnected the upstream O2 sensor yet, like me, I'm going to disconnect it now. There. Okay. And now I'm going to pull the manifold out from down below. And that's another reason why I took that front pipe out. Just easier all around access. Here's the metal gasket. And then the manifold. To remove the upstream O2 sensor that's in the old manifold that we took out, I'm going to use a 22mm O2 sensor socket. Comes with this slot so that you can slide it over and just bear down on it. It's easier in a vise. I'll just back that out. Here we have the exhaust manifold from 1A Auto. It comes with all of this. Brand new heat shield, gasket for the downstream pipe, new studs and lock nuts for the downstream pipe, and the factory style metal gasket, which is really sweet. A lot of companies give you that compressed material and that burns up. So that's really nice that it came with that one. It also comes with an optional plug if you don't have an upstream O2 sensor in the model that you have. If you do have upstream, you just take that plug right out and you put in your O2 sensor right back in there. So it's threaded just right. This is the factory one, OE, straight from design. Identically made, perfect, fraction of the cost. If you need this part or any other parts for your car, click on the link below and head on over to 1aauto.com. Now we have to clean the carbon deposit off of the head, the engine part of the exhaust. I don't want to put a new gasket up against that. I like to make it smooth and make sure there's no leaks after. So I use a carpenter's rubber block and I put emery cloth on it. And now I know I've got a flat surface and I'm not going to really deep scratch an aluminum head. And I just work myself back and forth here. I went to the local Toyota dealer and I got new studs and lock nuts from the manufacturer for the head side of the manifold. The old ones are, you could see how rusted they were. The nuts wouldn't come out and the studs came directly out, which is good, it's fine. No drilling or tapping needed. So now to do this job correctly and make sure there's no future problems, I'm putting the OE studs in because they're grade 8 and they will put up with the heat that comes from this engine. I'm just going to hand start every single, there's 8 of them. So I'm going to put all 8 manifold to head studs in by hand, then tighten them down. There's no torque spec that I could find, so obviously there's a sleeve on them. I just bottom them out to the sleeve and just give it a good quarter turn. And you should be fine, because the nuts have a torque to them once the manifold is on. Do that to all 8. It's really good practice to start things by hand, because even though they look clean, a lot of times threads can get a little slight burr to them. And a burr inside a head is nothing that is an easy fix. That can be very expensive and timely. So you can feel it, feel if it feels like it's not going in straight. This on here is a special inverted Torx head. It's the opposite of a star or Torx. It's called an inverted Torx. And the number socket will be an E10. Okay, and I got my front 4 in. I'm just going to go to the other side of the fender well and put my last 4 in, then I'm going to tighten them up. Because it's a difficult area to get into, I'm just using my little setup I have here with the extension, so I can make sure that they're all nice and bottomed out and snug. On the new gasket, it comes one side's coated and one side is the straight metal. The directions say to leave the white tab on the exhaust manifold side. So I would say the coated side is to hit the steel from the manifold, and the non-coated is direct metal to the aluminum. I did look at the old gasket and the way it came out, and I just reassured my thoughts on that. So now I'm going to line up each bolt and put the gasket up. Here we go. Now I'm going to install the studs that go to the front pipe on the manifold. There's 3 of them. Just like the ones I did to the head, I'm going to put them on by hand, bottom them out, and I'm just going to snug them up. I'm going to put the new manifold in. I'm going to basically reverse procedure. I'm going to go up from down below here, guide it up in there, pretty much put it in the spot so I can go up through the fender well and put it in place. I'm going to get a couple of the lock nuts put in my hand first. Okay, I'm going to put this back one on. That's probably why they make it like this. The flanges are floaters, they float around. I think that's going to be in my favor. Now I can move to the front. Sweet, so now I got 2 out of 8. So I'm going to snug from the center, go from the center and out, either way. And I'm just going to snug them up and then I'll torque them. And the nuts are 14 millimeter. Just like the factory, because they are the factory nuts. Let's see if I can get to the bottom one from down here. I doubt it, but it's worth a try. I've snugged all the lock nuts down in sequence from the center out, and now I'm going to torque from the center outward. It's a 14 millimeter socket, and the torque spec is 32 foot-pounds. So, okay, let's see if I can get down to the bottom. Now it's time to put the new heat shield on. I'm going to go from the top, the engine side. I think, let's see if I can squeeze it down through this way. It's not easy. There we go. Beautiful. I ended up moving these hoses out of the way, like the fuel return. And then I've got an evap hose over here that I disconnected from the purge solenoid. I'll connect that back up. And there's a clip here that connects all these together. Your situation might be different. You might not need to move these. Definitely try without and go from there. So now I got the vehicle raised back up. I'm gonna try to get my hands in here and attach they're little 6mm bolts that the manifold is supplied with the manifold. It's a 10mm socket. Just start them all by hand. Got that one. So there's 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. You can always use your old shield as a reference because it's identical. So the mounting holes should be in the same spot. It's a 10mm socket. I've got a swivel set up just to make it a little easier for me. These bottom ones are going to be the tricky ones. It's a little difficult getting your hand in here, but it's going to get done. I think I'm going to switch to my left hand. Oh, you turn. This. There we go. I'm gonna put the dipstick tube back in. I pulled the dipstick out, put it on the tray. I'll put that in the tube from the engine side. I put a little lubricant, like a clean oil on that, the O-ring, so it will go into the block smoother. Yeah, we're gonna have to put it pretty much down in, then twist it around, yeah. I lined it up on the block. Push it down in, and it will line up perfectly if it's in the hole all the way down, which it is. So now I'll take the mounting bolt, start that. And that is a 12mm socket. And I'm going to snug that up. Just snug it down and then give it a nice half turn once it bottoms out. There you go. Perfect. Now it's time to put the upstream O2 sensor in. Toyota actually calls it an air-fuel ratio sensor. This is the top one in the manifold itself. We're putting a new one in because we've gone through all this, so we're just going to put them in and get this at 1A auto. It comes with a nice anti-seize on the thread. It stops that from rusting in the actual pipe. Line it up and thread it all in. This is going to be a 22mm socket, aka O2 sensor socket. When you tighten down an O2 sensor, you bottom it out and you keep turning it as you feel that crush washer crush. And once it really bottoms out nice and snug, you're done. So there's the O2 sensor once I hand tightened it in the manifold. I'm going to reach up here with my O2 sensor socket. It's got that cutout in it. So now I can hopefully manipulate that up in there. The shield is probably in the way now, but we'll get it in there. There we go. I might have to do this quarter turn by quarter turn. It wouldn't surprise me. All right, let's get the ratchet on. Let's see if we can tighten this up. Perfect. I felt that gasket seat right then. It just gave a little, like a pop feeling. That tells me that gasket's flat. Now if it's willing to give me back my socket, we'll plug it in. There we go. So I'm going to connect my O2 sensor now. This is the sensor end, and that is the truck harness end. I'm going to visually line it up. There's the lock clip, and there's the clip on the harness end. So because it's tight in here, I'm going to just, now I know which way it's going to go. I'm going to try to do this. Okay, you can see I've got it started. See, I've got it lined up. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to bring my arm back up in and click it together. Yep, it's clicked. Fish the converter up. Line it up with the studs. Now we're going to tighten the nuts going to the manifold in the front pipe with a 14mm socket. And then we're going to snug them right down. Now we're going to put the fender well splash guards back in. Get the front and then the back one. There you go. Now it's time to put the tire back on. This is an alloy wheel, so you have a seat on the lug nuts. And that aluminum, the metal piece goes into the aluminum, so definitely do it by hand, guide it in, and know that it's seated. I do 2 of them, and that way when I go to lower it and tighten it, it's not off center. Now with my lug nuts hand tightened and the truck on the ground, pressure on the tire. So the truck's not fully lowered, just pressure on the tire. I'm going to torque each lug nut to 110 foot-pounds. That's the manufacturer torque specs for this vehicle. I'm going to tighten in the star pattern. Just seats on the hub properly. I like to double check one last time. And you're all set. Okay, now we're ready to put the dipstick back in the dipstick tube. Ready to start her up and check it out for leaks.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.